morning, everybody. This is your favorite MS4 coordinator, Rick Brown. And remember, only you can help us keep our stormwater clean. There's a few little adjectives that we use, let's say, or acronyms in MS4. And some people get confused about them. You know, when you start talking about NOIs, NOSs, and whatever, SWPP, SWIPs, it gets a little confusing. So I'm just going to try to make it real simple. A SWIP, SWPPP, is a stormwater pollution prevention plan. This is a plan that you put together on what you're doing with your building, what are you going to be doing with your land disturbance, etc., etc. And it's for over an acre of disturbance. You have to do this stuff for MS4. So you prepare a stormwater plan that I can review, and basically what it is when it rains and all that stuff, you know, rain runs downhill and it can pick up pollutants and dirt and blah, 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 blah. So what you do with a pollution prevention plan is you design it so the water actually stays on the site, and at the same time, you design it so when it does leave, it's a designed way that the water can leave the site and still be clean. You actually put perimeter protection around your site and that type of stuff. So that's a SPPP, a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Now, before you ever start building and any of that stuff, and you have your engineer and or you design a pollution prevention plan, the first thing that you do is you give it to me to review. And when I review it, I turn back what's called a Form 1. It's a white piece of paper with some yellow line divisions on it. It's really fairly simple, but I approve all these different categories, and that means that I return a notice of sufficiency to you, an NOS. Well, all the notice of sufficiency is that this design is sufficient to meet the rules. And I know that it can get a little misleading and people get confused about it, but really it's simple. You submit it to MS4, they review your plan, they say this is okay, this is not okay, you make various corrections, and the MS4, when they review it, they actually get the amount of acres you're disturbing, what's the latitude, longitude, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's pretty specific stuff. And when all that specific stuff is completed, and a guy like me or Ariana looks at it and we approve it, then we are just saying that it's sufficient. It is a sufficient plan. Now, what happens with a sufficient plan, an NOS? You can go to the new IDEM portal system. The owner actually can do it. It doesn't have to be MS4 or an engineer. The owner can actually do it and go through a portal system at IDEM. I'm not that familiar with the portal, but that's been fairly new over the last year and a half or two. Everybody getting the age of technology. Old guy like me still behind. But either way, you send it down to IDEM and you send it into this portal. And what you're sending down there is that you've submitted a plan, it's been approved, it's sufficient, notice of sufficiency. That's a form that when I approve it, that is the notice of sufficiency. However, now you got to send it to IDEM and to get a notice of intent. Well, what's the notice of intent? It's an NOI. So what you do, you have it designed. It gets approved locally. It's sufficient to send downstate. You send it downstate, the state looks at it, the state looks at the notice of sufficiency, they see that it's signed off by an MS4 program, and then they review what they have, and they return to you, your owner, or the engineer, a notice of intent. And all is that notice of intent, or NOI, is that you are intending to go by the stormwater rules. And it's that simple. So, basically all this in a nutshell is a fast description again of what you do. You're going to build something, you're going to do something, it's going to affect stormwater. You have a plan designed of how you're going to handle your stormwater. a pollution prevention plan, stormwater pollution prevention plan, 1. 2, you submit that to an MS4 to be sure that it's going to meet the local ordinances and rules of the MS4 program. The MS4 department reviews it and says, yes, it is sufficient. You'll get that form returned at NOS, and then it used to be, up until the last year or two, MS4s would send this downstate. But now, with the age of technology and portal system at IDEM, now you submit it, MS4 approves it, you get your form, it's sufficient at NOS, and then that can go down to IDEM. And when that is sent down to IDEM, it goes through the portal, IDEM looks at it, reviews it, and sees that it's been locally reviewed, sees that it has met the notice of sufficiency rule, because that's what you're sending down to NOS, and any other information they ask for. And then they send back to you, the owner, or you, the engineer, they send back a notice of intent. So you get your design approved, you get a paper saying it's sufficient in NOS, you send it down to IDEM, not MS4, you send it down to IDEM, and IDEM says it meets our rules too, so they send back a notice of intent, which means you've designed it and it's correct. You give it to an MS4 who reviews it, it's sufficient. You send it down to IDEM, and IDEM sends back that it's okay because you're intending to go by all the rules. Intending, notice of intent. 3 basic steps of how you do an MS4 stormwater SWIP, notice of sufficiency, and notice of intent. Thank you very much.